Okay, today we're going to review the coordinate plane. Vocabulary you need to know. What is a coordinate plane? It is a plane containing the x-axis and the y-axis. Well, what are those? The x-axis is a horizontal number line in the coordinate plane. And horizontal is like from left to right. Think of like the horizon of a sunset. The y-axis is the vertical number line in the coordinate plane, which is up and down. I'm vertically challenged. Get it? I'm short. Huh. Alright, the origin is the intersection of the x-axis and the y-axis. I don't have a picture, but I will show you in the future slides what the origin is. A quadrant, the axes are going to divide the coordinate plane into 4 regions, and these 4 regions are the quadrants. And an ordered pair is a pair of numbers that can be used to locate a point on the coordinate plane. So you'll have an x and you'll have a y, and that'll be your coordinate plane, your ordered pair that will show you where something is in the coordinate plane. So, quadrant, remember that this is where the axes divide the coordinate plane into 4 sections. So, whenever we're talking about quadrants, the one that is right here, this will always be 1. And I'm representing it not as I, but as 1, as a Roman numeral. So we start from like the top right, and we go 1, and then we go counterclockwise. So this one will be quadrant 2. This is quadrant 3. And then that one will be quadrant 4. You need to know these. So now we know where the quadrants are. We can see where our point is. So point A is in quadrant 1. Now, in the quadrants, it will be easy to identify a coordinate knowing where its quadrant is if you know this information. If the x is positive and the y is positive, it will be in quadrant 1. So, meaning, like point A is, if we move right positive and then up positive, that's going to be our coordinate plane. In quadrant 2, we would move to the left on our x-axis, so that would make it negative, and we would move up. So, for example, B, we go left, which is negative, and up, which is positive. Example, our point C, we're going to go left, which is negative, and down, which is negative. So that will be the symbols in quadrant 3. And point D, we're going right for our x, which is positive, and down, which is negative. So our x will be positive and y will be negative. So let's identify, even though we have talked about these. Point A, what quadrant is it in? 1. B is in 2. C is in 3. And D is in 4. Okay, now looking at these, remember I said that if you just know those like positive, negative, negative, positive, you can identify these, where these ordered pairs are located, where this point will be located by just looking at the numbers. You won't even have to draw it. But for this, I am going to draw a little visualization here that will help us out. I'm going to draw our coordinate plane, just kind of sketched out, and I'm going to identify my quadrants so I know where they are, just as a reminder. Quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4. And also remember that in quadrant 1, you're moving right up, so that's positive, positive. In quadrant 2, you would be moving left and up, so that would be negative, positive. Quadrant 3 will be left and down, so that'll be negative, negative. And then quadrant 4 will be right and down, which is positive, negative. If I have not mentioned this yet, remember that you are always going to move on the x-axis first and then the y-axis. So for example, that's why in quadrant 2, this first one is negative because we are starting with the x. So we're moving left from the origin, and this is where the origin is. It is the intersection right here, and the coordinates for the origin is always 0, 0. So whenever we're moving left, positive, that's why it is in that order. So now looking at these examples, we have 2, 4. Remember the x is 2 and the y is 4. So these are both positive. So if you look over here, that is quadrant 1. Negative 3, negative 5 are both negative. So that would be located in quadrant 3. Negative 1, 6. The x is negative, so we'd be moving left, and then the 6 is positive, so that would be in quadrant 2. And then 7, negative 2 would be right 7, because it's on the x, and then down the y-axis 2, so it ends up in quadrant 4. Okay, so when identifying and plotting points, remember that the x, if it's positive, we move right, and if it's negative, we move left, because the x-axis is horizontal. The y will be the second number that we are going to move, the second time that we're going to move up the y-axis secondly, and we're going to move up if it's positive, and we're going to move down if it's negative. So, let's identify these points so that we are able to label their coordinates. So let's look at M first. We're going to move first left because it's to the left and we're starting with the x-axis first. So we're going to move left negative 6. So our x is negative 6, and then our y, which is up or down, we're going to move up, so that's a positive 1. Okay, now point O. Remember that that is on the origin. That is the intersection between the x-axis and the y-axis. So that point is always 0, 0. Point J. Looking at our x-axis first, starting with the origin, we're going to move 1, 2, 3. That's a positive 3. Then we're also moving up, which is going to be a positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's positive 4. Looking at point B, moving across the x-axis first because we're looking for the x, we're moving right 7. And then we're going to move down the y-axis 3. So that is going to be a negative 3. So that's how we would identify these points. Plotting points are going to do the same thing, except you're working backwards. So looking at the first example, 3, 2. We're starting with the origin. 3 is our x, so we're moving right 3. And then we're going to move up 2. So that is going to give us the point there. So we're moving right to here, and then we're moving up to 2. Looking at our next example, negative 5, 6. We're going to first move left across the x-axis because it is negative. So we're going to move to that negative 5 here. And as you notice, I have already drew this dotted line up to 6, so it will make it easier on this example. But so we're moving to the right, negative 5, and then we are moving up to the 6. And the point that they meet will be right there. Looking at the next example, a negative 2, negative 2. We're going to move left. Watch that. It is negative. So we're moving to that negative 2 from the origin, negative 2. Then we're moving down 2 on the y-axis. The point where they meet will be the point that we plot. The last example is 4, negative 3. So we're moving right 4 because it's positive. And then we're moving down 3 because it is negative. The point where they meet is the point that we plot. Okay, I want you to sketch out a coordinate plane and plot these following points. Try it out, see how you do.